Hello everybody, welcome once again to Fantasy Forecheck, brought to you by the all-new Ram 1500 Sport. Andy McNamara alongside Nick Alberga. And Nick, as always, we will give the people what they need: waiver wire pickups, sleepers, starts, and how to win some money in the Ram Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool a little bit later on. So stay tuned for that. Let's get to some of the big storylines. You want to start with the Colorado Avalanche?
Yeah, we're going to start with the Colorado Avalanche, as mentioned, and surely we'll find out more in the coming days. But stemming from that win in Boston on Saturday night, Cale Makar and Philip Grubauer, two names to watch for in Colorado. They just can't stay healthy. Like, Gabriel Landeskog comes back, and they continue to win, by the way. It doesn't matter who's in that lineup. Nazem Kadri out of that Colorado lineup right now. So I think for insulation purposes, you want to look at Colorado and just pick up Pavel Francouz, the backup. We don't know the extent yet, of course, on Grubauer. And same goes for Cale Makar. Ryan Graves is a guy, regardless, we're going to pimp this week. Maybe you put more precedence on picking him up this week, more so because we don't know what's up with Cale Makar. But definitely wanted to start there because those are two pivotal pieces right now in fantasy. Yeah,
and it's always a look from within. When key pieces go down, you look from within. Yeah. How about the Toronto Maple Leafs line combos being switched up a little bit?
Yeah, so, you know, there's a variety of teams, and certainly something I led with in my 20 fantasy thoughts this week was the jumble ups. And even, you know, from the Maple Leafs, we can start with Colorado first because of the injury news there. They've been going with Donskoy, McKinnon, and Rantanen, and that's important to note because Landeskog comes back, but they haven't put the big three together just yet. So there's a lot of DFS value right now in JT Compher and Andrei Burakovsky, who missed one game, but he's back in the lineup. He's provided so much value. Another guy I'd look at maybe is Val Nichushkin, who has figured out how to score goals again in the NHL, and we're seeing plenty of them as of late. Scored a shorty against the Maple Leafs last week. So I think there's some sneaky DFS value, especially when guys are having exposure 5-on-5 to Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen. You have to be all over that. When you look at the Maple Leafs on that tune, Pontus Aberg, the Pontiff, I like to call him.
The Pontiff.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like the correlation there. Yeah. He's playing with Matthews and Nylander. We'll see how long that lasts. Coming from the American Hockey League, was having a hot start there. Playing on that line right now. As far as we know, he'll get another shot coming up on Tuesday night in Vancouver. So I think there's some legit value there when it comes to Pontus Aberg. And Zach Hyman's back with John Tavares and Mitch Marner, and they look like their old selves from the last couple of years on Saturday night. So I think two guys to look at there on Toronto.
Yeah, a lot of upside there, and especially with Sheldon Keefe taking over as head coach. Whenever anybody now is brought up from the Marlies, he knows them better than anyone. It's not almost a projection. It's okay, this player is going to fit well in this lineup because I just coached him. Not that long ago.
And not to mention, I mean, the garden seed value there. Austin Matthews is a prolific goal scorer. We saw with the 2 goals on Saturday night. Nylander's going to do his thing. There's a lot of chemistry brewing there, certainly. So I think when you look at Pontus Aberg, especially in DFS, if you can get him for cheap, and you can get him for cheap in terms of value right now, you got to go ahead with that. And Calgary's another team, as you know, we're looking at. Jeff Ward, the new head coach there, that team is on fire right now. We knew this is inevitable. There's a lot of talent on that roster. And, you know, the interesting thing so far is that they've had success separating the big three. You know, we've talked a lot about Colorado's big three, but Lindholm, Monahan, and Gaudreau have been a thing for a long, long period of time. Well, as things constitute right now, they split them up. At the end of the day, they're going to put them together for big chunks of time. I wouldn't be shocked if they're back together, but certainly I think when they're split up, you're looking at some value in guys like Andrew Mangiapane. Dylan Dubé has come up from the American Hockey League with some pedigree, played in the World Junior team a couple years ago for Canada, high value pick there. And Derek Ryan right now centering Milan Lucic, who has a mini 2-game goal streak going, and that's pivotal because we know Lucic's track record the last couple of years hasn't been good in terms of goal scoring. And Gaudreau on that third, it's odorous right now. So I think across those 3 lines in Calgary, that team is starting to catch fire, and you want to be a part of that, Andy.
Yeah, no doubt. The New Jersey Devils. Bit of a change, right? Another coaching change?
Not to toot our own horns. We pimped this last week. Again, we don't like to see people lose their jobs, but Ray Shero had to do something. I don't, honestly, in my true estimation, it's not the coaching in New Jersey. There's something in the back screen there that we don't know about. It could be the Taylor Hall noise, but change is needed. And we'll see in the coming weeks if a Taylor Hall trade happens before the holiday freeze here, or if it happens closer to the trade deadline. But Alan Nasruddin comes in, former National Hockey Leaguer, 0-2-1 so far under Nasruddin. They still have their deficiencies defensively.
Right.
I'm not looking at Mackenzie Blackwood at all. Their goaltending situation is what it is. He's so young. Like, I'd rather see him in the American Hockey League, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Just not to break him, even, right? The confidence level.
And that's exactly what's happened in New Jersey. Right. Look at Corey Schneider. And again, I'm not saying Corey Schneider is an NHL goalie at this point in time, but that team is so putrid defensively. Alain Nasruddin has his work cut out for him. I'll say, too, like anybody outside of Taylor Hall and PK Subban, I'm willing to drop. And these are standard leagues, non-keeper leagues at this point in time. I would jump out right now and jump back in if these guys get going at some point in time. The top six as it constitutes now: Hall, Hughes, Kyle Palmieri, who's got some value. Coleman, Zajac, and Gusev on line two. But the way New Jersey is playing right now, I just don't think you want to be around any of these guys. We anticipate Taylor Hall being dealt. And again, Subban, like, I'm getting really, really close. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
And dropping, like, it's 17 games in a row without a point for Subban.
You just feel like you don't want to drop him. Because then right after that, he's going to jump back in.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point where, okay, you give him the benefit of the doubt, and if it doesn't happen, if there's a better option, you have to consider. As crazy as that sounds.
I'll wait till the end of this decade, Andy.
You'll wait forever.
It's like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You got to know.
Exactly. I got you. Nick, what we also have to keep an eye on is 4 game teams this week. There are 9 of them. Now, interestingly enough, there's no clubs you really have to stay away from because there are 0, 1, and 2 game teams. So it's 3 or 4. So nice slate, nice workload overall around the league.
We like those weeks, certainly. And I think 51 games in total this week. The big days to watch: Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So as we always stress, if you're trying to manipulate a lineup in a daily league, you want to look at the quiet nights, and that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So teams I'm looking at of the 9 that you want to look at. On top of that, I like Colorado too, has a 3-game week, but we mentioned some of those names. You want to look at Ryan Graves and Pavel Francouz. Clearly, we don't know the extent of the Grubauer injury. In terms of the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool, it's pretty simple. You go McKinnon all day. I will get to that in mere moments. Gabe Landeskog's at 3-point value. And Pavel Francouz, if you need goaltending, again, we don't know what's happening there, but 2-point value in the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. You think he'll get at least a start. So Colorado's a 3-game team I wanted to get out there. But of the 9 teams you see there on your screen, I'm looking at the Boston Bruins on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. I like that schedule quite a bit. Jake DeBrusk at 32% I'm looking at. And Charlie Coyle is getting PP1 exposure right now and centering that second line at 15% value. So I think you want to look at that for sure. Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, Tuukka Rask, guys you want to look at in the Sportsnet.
With the Bruins.
The Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool is pretty simple when you go to Boston. Although I will say, like, that team is starting to lose some games. They are human. I think we do forget that. We saw their last year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So just be mindful of that going forward. And the other team I wanted to touch on, the Vegas Golden Knights. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday schedule. A guy you're about to talk about, Alex Tuch, is a guy I'd look at. Nate Schmidt on the back end. And Marc-Andre Fleury sounds like he's going to be back. We know what's going on at home with him, and we wish him all the best and his family. And William Karlsson and Max Pacioretty are 2 guys to look at. So a lot of value in fantasy puck right now.
Yeah, those are some great names to keep an eye on. DFS, season long. But let's get to our top waiver wire pickups for each position group. So at the forward end, you mentioned it, Alex Tuch owning just 21% of Yahoo leagues. And over the last 4 games, he's been the hottest forward out the winger position. So he has dual eligibility. You got left and right wing. So we like that, like the dual eligibility. But 4 goals, 3 assists. 3 of those points came on the power play. And when you look at what else he can do, those secondary numbers are like the odd face-off he can take, block shots, hits. I'd like to see him shoot a bit more. But overall, at that 21% ownership, you ride the hot hand, plug him into DFS, and if you're facing injuries, again, dual position eligibility.
And definitely, I mean, it is a recency bias in fantasy hockey. You forget what a player has done in the past. Like, he had 52 points last year, a guy who's going to get you penalty minutes, goals, exposure to the top players in Vegas. So I like that pick. And I'm gonna stick with the theme of the dual eligibility forwards. I'm going to look at Jason Zucker, the Minnesota Wild.
Okay.
Left wing, right wing eligibility, 29% ownership. Minnesota sneaky good over the last month, 8-1-3 over the last 12 games. Bruce Boudreau has brought them back from the dead, so to speak. And you look at Jason Zucker, certainly a guy like you have to feel for. He's been traded almost like 15 times in the last year, right? And he sticks with Minnesota, has done so much for that organization. His wife does a lot for that team, and he's really producing, and it's under the radar, Andy. I mean, he's on pace for his first ever 70-point season, second ever 30-goal pace. 3 goals over the last 5. 5 points, a +4, 2 PIMs. Like, he's covering a lot of categories right now, and he's a guy normally people don't think about because of the sexiness or lack thereof in Minnesota. But I'd be all over Jason Zucker right now.
You're wild over Jason Zucker.
I like that.
Huh?
That works for me.
Sometimes you just take the easy one. This one's easy to me, but a little under the radar, and he's been gaining some steam on the defensive side. Adam Fox, a week ago, he was at around high 20%, now 41% owned for the New York Rangers, the 6th most fantasy points of all defensemen over the last 2 weeks when you look at Adam Fox. So this is a guy, again, we love the multiple categories. Somebody who, you can always go John Carlson, but guess what? John Carlson's not available. You're not getting John Carlson at this time. So if you need a nice defenseman, shots on game, hits, block shots again, playing significant minutes, and has double-digit fantasy points in 5 of his last 8 games. Rangers also on a 4-game week if you include the Sunday. So you got to go and keep that hot streak going.
And again, speaking of New York, I would underline as well that Jacob Trouba is a guy you want to identify on the trade market right now, and I think you want to sell high on an Anthony DeAngelo because I think things will even out over the year as things go by. And on the back end, I'm going to speak to that sort of trend. Shane Gostisbehere, the pedigree is there. The ceiling is there. He seems to have responded positively after being healthy, scratched 3 games in a row. The last 5 games, he's got 3 goals, 27% ownership. And I sort of talked about this earlier on this year that maybe you wanted to go back. It could be that time to go back on Shane Gostisbehere.
And let's go in between the pipes now. The Philadelphia Flyers, you can go either Carter Hart, Brian Elliott. The value, though, is with Brian Elliott. 13% ownership. The team is so hot right now. Right, I feel like it's a Zoolander, right?
Yeah.
So hot right now. Brian Elliott, 13% ownership for that second goalie. For the second goalie on your fantasy team, they're swapping time. DFS when he's playing. You just have to look at what Elliott's been doing recently. Won 3 of his past 4 starts. He's averaging over 16 fantasy points a game during those wins. And gorgeous stat line, 2.66 goals against, 915 save percentage. You slide him in. When he's playing, you slide him in.
Alain Vigneault has done a tremendous job.
He has.
I got no qualms with that. For my goaltending situation, I'll throw a shout out as well to Pavel Francouz that we pimped earlier on because we don't know the extent of Grubauer. But Jake Allen. Jordan Binnington gets pulled against Toronto on Saturday, which leads me to believe the next start will come to Jake Allen, who I thought cleaned up the mess rather well. After surrendering 4 goals, St. Louis did in the first period against the Maple Leafs. So when you look at Jake Allen, 5 wins, a 2.35, a 9.26. That's just a really good feel-good story. A guy who lost his starter's gig last year, clearly to Jordan Binnington, and seemed like his NHL career was headed downhill quickly. But he's resurfaced this year. He's been very, very steady, and I think has earned some starts away from Jordan Binnington. So I'm going with Jake Allen, who, by the way, is 15% owned right now.
There you go. Gotta like that. So those are our top waiver wire pickups. So you can leave any questions you have for your fantasy hockey team in the comment section below or on Twitter at AndyMC81 and at TheGoldenMuzzy. But now, Nick, money time, baby. Money. We're going to try to win you some in the Ram Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool, which the Fantasy Forecheck, this show brought to you by the Canadian exclusive Ram 1500 Sport. This full-size pickup gives Canadians exceptional capability under the hood, advanced technology inside, and impeccable styling throughout. It's the Ram 1500 Sport, and it's designed for life in the North. So as you know already, the great thing about this league, you can hop in any time. So if you haven't played yet, you can play now. You pick 6 forwards, 4 defensemen, 2 goaltenders, and in each position group, you slap a Ram capable tag on one, and that doubles your points. So that's why when we talk about those 4-game weeks, very important because more games, more opportunity for points, right?
I like that. I like that.
So there we go. Who's your Ram-capable forward that you're putting the tag on?
So the Calgary Flames, a team we've sort of circled the last couple weeks, and under Jeff Ward, they're starting to find their game. I believe they're 5-0-1 in the last 6. I'm looking again at Johnny Gaudreau, a guy we're just waiting anxiously for a guy to really get going. He's a top 20 fantasy rank for the most part, and I'm looking at Johnny Gaudreau. That's my justification. Yeah. At some point in time, he will catch fire, and I'm hoping it's now. He's a 4-point guy in a 30-point cap league. But in terms of my Ram-capable pick, I will go with Johnny Gaudreau because I think it is inevitable that he catches fire. And
you mentioned the points. You have 30 points to spend, and the players are ranked 1 through 4 points. So you kind of have to guide yourself through and pick the best spots. I'm going Jack Eichel, 3 points. I think that's still a great value for Jack Eichel. You look at what he's been able to do before Saturday's action, was the hottest fantasy center in the entire NHL. That's over Connor McDavid. That's over Leon Draisaitl. Jack Eichel, with that curly red hair, getting it done. 20.25 fantasy points during that stretch. 4 goals, 4 assists. I don't have to tell you how good Jack Eichel is. It's a smart play. You slap the tag on him, and you're not using the full 4 points either.
Very nice pick.
Who do you got back in? Yeah, who do you got defense?
I'm going Victor Hedman. I think anytime Tampa plays, like a 4-game week, you have to look at them. We saw what they can do on Saturday night against San Jose. Just steamrolled the Sharks, who stay away from that goalie situation. That's all I can say. But Victor Hedman, a 5-game point streak, very quietly. He's known as one of the top point producing and top defenseman in general in the NHL. He's going to do his thing. And again, the exposure to Kucherov and Stamkos at point just makes him lethal to begin with. But then you add the pedigree of the player. Like, I can't go away from Victor Hedman. Not to mention the point value of 2's pretty nice in my world, too.
Yeah, and I'll stick with that 2 theme. Shea Weber of the Montreal Canadiens. Outside of John Carlson, no defenseman has been hotter fantasy-wise over the past week. So you can tune up Shea Weber, workhorse in ice time. The guy's he's all the time on the ice, which of course gives more opportunity. Someone that is valuable in those secondary fantasy categories, like blocking a ton of shots, shoots on net a lot, and is ranked 18th overall in Yahoo leagues when it comes to fantasy. So
I'm with it.
Shea Weber in between the pipes. Who do you got?
All right. So, you know, if I were to ask you this question, who would you say right now has the most starts in the NHL? You would never get it. Like, Carey Price is the first one. Number 2 is David Rittich in Calgary.
Wow.
But that reason alone, I will go with Dave Rittich, and not to mention that Calgary's starting to find its game here. And Rittich will see a lot of the crease. Cam Talbot started back on Saturday against the Los Angeles Kings. David Rittich has quietly had a really solid season. There were some issues clearly in between the pipes. Mike Smith moves on. They bring in Talbot. Who knows the backup situation? But I've seen enough from Rittich, and again, they're really riding him to suggest like he's going to get in there for 4 games, at least 3 of them. You would have to think coming up for Calgary, and they're winning a lot of games, so it's a pretty simple decision for me.
And you can double up the points, of course, by putting the Ram-capable tag on him. I'm going to Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
A goaltending controversy.
Is there, though?
A good old-fashioned controversy, sort of. It's becoming less of a controversy the way that Tristan Jarry is playing back-to-back shutouts. Like, stop right there. That's incredible.
That's all you need to say.
But overall, sometimes goalies get hot, and it's like, okay, that was fun. Is it sustainable? A 1.81 goals against.
Yeah.
Like, are we serious?
Not
like,
bad.
Are we playing video game easy here? 943 save percentage. Like I say, back-to-back shutouts. Has won 5 of his last 6 starts. It's a 3-game week for the Penguins. No back-to-backs. He could be in for all 3, depending.
Yeah.
It depends how that goes. And he's 2 points. You get that value, those numbers for 2 points in the Rams Sportsnet fantasy hockey pool. There's no doubt I'm putting the tag on.
Value City, and I'll add too, just in terms of fantasy hockey in general, I think it's a really, really nice time to buy low on Matt Murray.
Right.
The file is what it is. He had a really, really good start to this year. I think you need your backup goalie to push you. I don't see it as much of a controversy. I think Jarry's just having a hot stretch right now. And I think they know who their guy is. That's Matt Murray. They're going to set him up nicely here, and I think he's going to find his game. But in terms of value, you're not going to beat it in terms of the discount shopping you can do right now, especially if you need a second goalie. I think Matt Murray's a guy I would target right now on the trade market.
Yeah, that's a great season-long aspect and thinking there. But hey, for this week, go for it until Tristan Jarry tells you not to. You keep going with that.
Agreed.
Leave your comments in the comment section below. Hit us up on Twitter with any fantasy hockey questions. For Nick Alberga, I'm Andy McNamara. You've been watching the Fantasy Forecheck brought to you by Ram.